What happens when a ruthless gang targets a frail black woman, thinking her age and solitude make her an easy victim, only to find out her daughter is a highly trained military operative? Watch as mother and daughter fight back against the gang and uncover a deeper conspiracy that has plagued their community for generations. Amelia Harris sat on a worn wooden bench in the middle of the park, her cane resting against her leg. The sun filtered gently through the tall sycamores, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow across the ground. At 72, she had lived a full life, but days like this, quiet, serene, felt like moments stolen from a world that rarely slowed down. Her sharp eyes, partially obscured by the large, round glasses perched on her nose, followed the squirrels darting between trees. The park was a refuge for her, a place to reflect. After a lifetime of hardship and triumph, she cherished these moments of solitude. Yet, as she adjusted her shawl against the cool breeze, a group of figures emerged from a nearby path, their voices loud and their laughter grating against the tranquility. The gang, 3 young men, brash and self-assured, walked with exaggerated swagger. The leader, a wiry figure with a shaved head and a sneer that seemed permanently etched on his face, spotted Amelia and elbowed the others. "Look at this," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Granny's all alone." Amelia didn't flinch, didn't even look in their direction. Years of experience had taught her that responding to taunts often only fueled the fire. She shifted her gaze to a bird perched on a nearby branch, willing herself to ignore their approach. "Hey, old lady!" the leader shouted, his voice louder now, making heads turn from the few other park visitors. Amelia remained silent, her fingers tightening slightly around the head of her cane. She had heard worse, endured worse. "What? You too good to talk to us?" Another one jeered, stepping closer. His sneakers scuffed the pavement with a deliberate slowness meant to intimidate. Amelia sighed softly, her patience wearing thin. She turned her head just enough to meet their eyes, her voice calm but firm. "Afternoon, gentlemen." Her measured response caught them off guard, and their laughter faltered for a moment, but the leader quickly recovered, his smirk returning. "Gentlemen, that's funny. We're not here for pleasantries, Granny." Amelia's sharp gaze didn't waver. "What exactly are you here for, then?" The leader's sneer deepened as he took another step forward. His companions followed suit, spreading out slightly, their intent unmistakable. "We're here to remind you that people like you don't belong here. This is our park, our neighborhood." "People like me," Amelia echoed, her voice steady. "And what kind of people would that be?" "Don't play dumb," the leader snapped. "You know exactly what I mean." Amelia straightened slightly, her grip on her cane tightening. "I know what you mean," she said, her voice sharper now. "And I also know that this park belongs to everyone." The stockiest of the group snorted, crossing his arms. "She thinks she's got rights or something." The wiry leader's grin turned cruel. "Let's teach her something, then." Before Amelia could react, the leader lunged, his hand darting toward her cane. But she was faster than he expected. She pulled the cane back and swung it sharply, the end striking his wrist with a satisfying crack. The leader yelped and stumbled back, clutching his hand. "You want to fight an old woman?" Amelia said, her voice calm but edged with steel. "You better be ready for the consequences." The other 2 hesitated for a moment, their confidence shaken, but the stocky one growled and charged. Amelia sidestepped, using her cane to hook his ankle and send him sprawling onto the ground. The third man, the youngest of the group, hesitated, his bravado fading as he glanced at his fallen companions. "You think this is over?" the leader spat, recovering enough to glare at Amelia. "You don't know who you're messing with." Amelia stood her ground, her cane held firmly in both hands. "Neither do you." The gang regrouped, their movements cautious now, but before they could make another move, a commanding voice cut through the tension. "Step away from her. Now." All heads turned to see a tall, broad-shouldered woman striding toward them, her military bearing unmistakable. Dressed in a simple black jacket and jeans, her piercing eyes seemed to freeze the gang in place. "Mom," the woman said, her voice firm but laced with concern. "Are you okay?" Amelia allowed herself a small smile. "I'm fine, Nadia. These boys were just leaving." Nadia Langston, captain in the United States Army, didn't take her eyes off the gang as she stepped between them and her mother. "You heard her. Leave." The leader hesitated, his bravado crumbling under Nadia's intense gaze. "This isn't over," he muttered, motioning for the others to follow as he backed away. Nadia watched them retreat until they disappeared down the path. Then she turned to her mother, her stern expression softening. "You can't keep doing this, Mom." "Doing what?" Amelia said, her tone light. "Sitting in the park and minding my own business?" "Fighting off gangs," Nadia replied, a hint of exasperation in her voice. "What if I hadn't shown up?" Amelia leaned on her cane, a glimmer of amusement in her eyes. "I had it under control." Nadia shook her head, but there was admiration in her expression. "Come on, let's get you home." As they walked back to Amelia's modest house, Nadia couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random encounter. She had seen the look in the leader's eyes, a mix of hatred and desperation that suggested something deeper, and she knew her mother well enough to recognize when she was holding something back. "What's really going on, Mom?" Nadia asked as they settled into the living room. "That wasn't just a bunch of punks looking for trouble." Amelia sighed, her fingers tracing the smooth wood of her cane. "I've been noticing them around the neighborhood more lately. Watching, waiting. They've been targeting people, anyone they think is vulnerable." Nadia's jaw tightened. "And you didn't think to tell me?" "You have your own battles to fight," Amelia said gently. "I didn't want to burden you." "This is my battle too," Nadia said firmly. "You're my family. This community is my family." Amelia smiled faintly, a mix of pride and concern in her eyes. "Then I guess we're in this together." Over the next few days, Nadia began to dig deeper into the gang's activities. Her military training made her methodical and efficient, and it didn't take long to uncover connections that painted a troubling picture. The gang wasn't acting alone. They were part of a larger network, one that thrived on spreading fear and division. "They're more organized than I thought," Nadia said one evening, spreading a map across the kitchen table. "Look here, these are locations where similar groups have been reported, and here's where they've been meeting." Amelia leaned over the map, her keen eyes scanning the marks Nadia had made. "This isn't just about intimidation. They're planning something." Nadia nodded grimly. "And we're going to stop them." The two of them worked tirelessly, pooling their knowledge and resources. Amelia's decades of experience, navigating a world that often underestimated her, combined with Nadia's tactical expertise, created a formidable team. Together, they identified key players in the network and began to unravel their plans. Their efforts culminated in a late-night confrontation at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Nadia had called in a few trusted contacts from her military unit, and together with local law enforcement, they staged a raid that exposed the gang's operations. Amelia stood at the edge of the scene, her cane in hand, watching as officers led the gang members away in handcuffs. The leader's defiance had crumbled, replaced by the hollow realization that his time was up. Nadia approached her mother, her face tired but triumphant. "It's over." Amelia smiled, her eyes reflecting both relief and determination. "For now. But the fight isn't over, Nadia. It never is." Nadia nodded, placing a hand on her mother's shoulder. "Then we'll keep fighting. Together." As dawn broke over the city, the two women stood side by side, their bond stronger than ever, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.